Welcome to this magplus webinar. My name is Mike Haney, and today I'm going to walk you through some of the new features in our 5.0 release. And what you're looking at here on my screen is a blog post that's up on our site, magplus.com, that walks you through some of the features that I'm going to talk about today. And I wanted to start with this just so that you know you don't necessarily have to go back and watch this over if you miss certain pieces. We've got an awful lot of content out on our site and on our support site as well about some of these new features that I'm going to talk through today, including some additional videos showing these features, longer blog posts about many of the features, and of course out on our support site we always have a full release note so you can see all the very detailed things that were included in this release for each one of the pieces. I'm going to go over some of the major things today. And really where I want to start is within the app itself. So I'm going to fire up Reflector, and I'm going to start by calling up a client app in our old 4.4 system. So here what you're looking at is our friends over at Shape Magazine, and this is what the 4.4 and prior interface looked like. And what you can see here is we've got the banners up at the top, we have the store space, and you'll see down here at the bottom I've got a store icon, and then I also have a library icon. One of the things that we really wanted to address in the 5.0 release was to take a look at this in-app storefront. This is really your best tool as a content publisher for connecting to your users. And whether your goal is to simply get people to download more issues or to read those issues, if your content is free or if you're one of our corporate publishers, maybe all you need is just people to download more stuff. But if you're a commercial publisher and you're actually selling things, subscriptions or single issues, you need to sell more content. You need to sell more of what it is you're trying to sell. And this interface, this issues interface here, is really the most important tool you have. So we've spent a long time talking to the people in charge of these interfaces, consumer marketers or marketing directors, and asking them what they needed, what additional tools did they need, or what frustrations did they have with the current system that prevented them from getting as much value out of this, selling as many issues or subscriptions, or getting as many downloads as they wanted. And one of the big things that we heard is that having these two different interfaces, the store and the library, the store is everything for sale, the library is everything you already own, having these two spaces was often confusing for users. And if you wanted to give away a sample issue, for instance, which is something we always recommend, giving away some level of free content, you had to worry about directing people from the store to the library, then back to the store to purchase something. One of the other things we heard is that there simply wasn't enough space to promote things in here and to really highlight the things that people wanted to sell, like the subscriptions. And the subscriptions, which you're seeing here, look a lot like the issues themselves. So enough with the old, let's take a look at the new. Let's pop over to our new interface. Here we go. So this is the new issues interface. You'll see down here in my navigation there's no more store and library. There's only one button called issues, and that's because now whether I own an issue or whether the issue is for sale, I can access everything here through this one screen. This eliminates that problem of trying to direct your users back and forth between the two spacers and the users trying to discern what the difference is between the store and the library. Now they know that everything they can have or that they do have is here. Now we also wanted to give users some ability to sometimes get rid of the things that they don't want to see. So we've introduced some filters here for the users. So now they can see all the issues, which would include everything that they own as well as everything that's for sale, as well as the issues that are just here on my device. So if I just want to see what I've already downloaded, I can just tap on device. If there were more issues for sale here that I didn't own, and in this sample app I own everything, I'd have an additional filter up here that says My Issues, and that would allow me to filter out only those things that I already have access to and take away all the things that are still for sale. So users still have that great ability to filter out what they see, but now they're in charge of it, and as a publisher you can get them back into this space every time they come into the app, where you can use a couple of these new promotional spaces that we have on top here to direct them to the content that you want and to promote certain things. So let me talk about each one of these new spaces. Up at the top here, as you see something rotating through, this is our banner space. Now this existed in the old app as well. We introduced this with our 4.0 release, and it proved to be one of our really popular features. People liked the idea of having a nice big banner, a big space within the app itself to show things and to promote various things, content from the new app or a subscription. So really what we wanted to do in 5.0 was make this space even more useful and even more valuable. So we did a couple of things. One, you could see that this banner now spans the full screen. If we pop back here, you'll see that it was confined to a very specific space here. In the new one, it goes full width, so it just looks like a more natural part of the storefront itself. The other thing that we did was make the vertical size variable. So here you can see this is the largest size that you can have. This is 700 pixels tall, but this could get smaller. You could have something down to literally 1 pixel. So you can have very narrow banners up here if you don't want to dedicate this much storefront to this banner space. Now these banners, of course, are completely optional. You can turn this off and simply have a grid in here if you'd like and not utilize this space. And banners, of course, are a live option, which means that you can turn them on and off or even change the content of them anytime. You don't have to submit a new app update in order to do that. That's what makes them really valuable. I wanted to jump out here, in addition to some of the things you see cycling through here, some really nice designs, and show just some ideas, a blog post that we just put up of 8 smart ways to use the new 5.0 banners. Now, I'm sure there are more than 8 ways, but these are just some of the things that we thought of. So of course one of the really popular things to do with it is to promote your subscription. And one of the great things that we've done with the new 5.0, sorry, let me click to the right spot, here we go. With the new 5.0 banners is that these banners can now be tappable so that I can tap them to initiate an actual purchase. So whether that's a subscription or a single issue, these can be tapped to initiate a purchase. So that's a great way to sell subscriptions in this space, or just to what you see in Shapes app here to highlight some really good content to kind of entice people to get that most recent issue, because you're not just showing them a cover of an issue, you're showing them some of the great stories that are inside. But again, as I mentioned, because these can be updated any time, you could go in every day and you could pop in new banners. This could actually be a news space for you. Because again, these banners can be tapped not only to initiate a purchase, but to open a link out to a website. So you could pop out to the in-app browser and go to a particular site here. And so you could use these banners every day. You could put news stories in here, 5 top news stories for that day, and cycle through. So it becomes a bit of a headline billboard for your app. You can also sell this space to sponsors. We've seen other folks do that with the 4.0 apps. Give this space over to a sponsor. Let them be the sponsor of your app for whatever period of time that you'd like. People could tap that banner to go out to that sponsor's website or to a dedicated site they wanted. You can track, with your analytics. You can track the number of taps on those banners, so you could tell your sponsor exactly how many people actually clicked on it. You can tell how many people saw this store screen, so how many people saw that banner. And when that campaign was up, you could simply take that banner down. One of the other things that we always advocate is give your users as many channels as possible to give you feedback, to tell you what they like and what they don't like about the app. So again, there's no reason that this space can't be used for that. You could put a big banner up here that says, tap here to tell us what you think of the app, and a tap could trigger an automatic email to open up with a simple mail to link, just like you can do inside of your issues. You can also have this be a place for direct feedback straight to your site, so people can email you, or they can do surveys as well. So you could use a tool like SurveyMonkey to create a survey that people could tap. It would open up in an in-app browser. They could fill out the survey about your app and what they like and what they don't like and submit it off to you. You could use this space as a help space. So of course we still have the built-in help button that you can use if you want to in the main navigation bar. But you could also put a simple how-to in here just directing people how to use the app, or something in here to tap this to open up an FAQ, which we found users really like to have the FAQ. It helps prevent them from emailing you questions or from going out to iTunes and asking things in the reviewer out there if you can link them to an FAQ here. Finally, if you have any kind of a photographic or any sort of content, if your brand has any kind of user content interaction, why not run a contest or ask for submissions and let users fill this space? Every day you could have featured user content of the day that came cycling through this space, and they would get a great platform to show off that, their content to all of your users. So the point is an awful lot of things that you can do with this space, especially with that flexibility to trigger websites to open or URLs to open from here and to trigger purchases from it. So really encourage you to take a look at that banner space and use it. Moving down, I want to talk about this featured content space. And this is what we have here and what you're seeing. So this is another area, knowing that people could use banners for any number of things, content and sponsorship and those sorts of things. We wanted to give another dedicated space to highlight either a specific issue or a subscription purchase. So here you can see that in this mock-up, Shape is using it to promote a particular issue, the latest issue, Jan-Feb 214. So they get a little bit bigger text here. They get more room to describe the issue. And then they get this great cover flow style, preview images here. So just like in 4.0 apps, you can set these preview images within your magplus plugin. Let me just pop in the plugin and show you where that's done. So here within my vertical setting, or within my vertical panel rather, I have a checkbox that says Include in Issue Preview. On any given vertical, if I check that box, and let's pop back out here, the very top screen that's visible, so this area right here, it's going to basically take a screenshot of that and it's going to include it as a preview image here within my preview space. And there's another place in addition to just here within this featured content that this comes into play. If I tap one of those issues, you'll see we've now also introduced this great full screen preview. So now using those preview images, picking the right verticals that you want to select and bring that through so that users can swipe through here and see some of this preview content becomes really useful. It's a really good tool for users to preview what they're about to purchase. And of course you get some nice description copy down here as well. Now there's no real limit to the number of preview images you can include in here. If you go beyond 10 or 15, it gets a little bit awkward for the user in terms of having to swipe through them all and the memory required to load them. So we recommend keeping it somewhere around 10 to 15, but you can really do as many as you like. Once I'm in my preview space here, I can even share this out using standard iOS sharing. If I choose to share this, what I'm actually going to share is that screenshot, or that cover rather, for that issue, along with the name of it, and then I can just email or tweet it or do whatever I want. So if I want to tell people like, hey, this is a really great new issue of Shape, you should check it out, I can share it directly from here, as well as within the issue itself. And I can click the download button and trigger a download, or if it's for sale, trigger a purchase right from this interface as well. When I'm done, I click the done button and now I'm right back into my grid. So those preview images are really useful, both if I choose to have the featured content here, but also for that full screen preview that's going to pop up. Now the other interesting thing about the featured content is this can, instead of being an issue, this can be a subscription. So this can be another place for you to promote those subscription products that you have. And if it's a subscription, you can upload some custom images here. So if you want to have multiple covers to show people a kind of range of what they would get with a subscription, or even just some dedicated images that describe the benefits of the subscription, you can fill these preview image spaces here with whatever you'd like when you're promoting a subscription. And I just want to pop out to magplus Publish, our backend, and show you where some of these things are actually set. So here in your Apps tab, which is where you manage and build your custom white label reader apps, there's a couple of new spaces in here. One is called Banners and one is called Featured Content. So I'll pop into Featured Content first. Really very simple, very straightforward. If I want to use this Featured Content space, and again, this is a live option as well, and it's optional, so I can turn this on or off, have it appear or disappear. I can do that anytime. I don't need to do this in relation to an app update. Here I can choose no featured content, which means turn that space off, just give it back over to the issue grid. I can choose it to always show the latest issue, whatever the most recently published issue is will show up there. I can choose a specific issue, so maybe I've published a special issue, or maybe I'm publishing some back issues and I want to highlight those today. I can choose that. Or I can have a specific subscription. So even if I have multiple subscription products, I can choose whether my monthly or my annual is what shows up in that space. So again, we really hope that this gives you the tools, or some additional tools anyway, to help drive some of those conversions that we know content publishers really need to increase and really always want to improve. And the great thing about doing this as a live option is it allows you to run campaigns. So for a week I can try promoting the latest issue and I can see if that increases my downloads. Then I can try a campaign for a week where I promote the latest subscription, or specific subscription product and see if that leads to more subscription purchases. Then I can try to change my images or my messaging, and again I can track how the results of those changes happen, so we can really start to dial in what works with these spaces. If I go back to apps, you see I've also got a spot here for banners. So creating these banners is really easy. They're just images. It's just a big JPEG. So you can create these, your designer can create these. You simply upload them here. You can swap out an image or delete the banner just by checking that box. And then again, if I want to link to a specific issue, we've got the codes over here for how I link to an issue, how I link to a subscription, or how I link to a standard website. And again, no real limit to the number of banners you can have here. Now, if you tried to do 150, we can't promise what's going to happen. But if you want to have 3 or 5 or 10 different banners in here, you can do that. Anytime you want to upload additional ones, just click the Add Banner and hit Save. You want to remove them, just hit Remove Banner and hit Save. Again, you can change this any day. The other feature, slight improvement we released here with 5.0 is you can now choose the amount of time between when these banners rotate. So as we were seeing here in our example, these banners keep swapping through, in this case every 5 seconds, because it actually has milliseconds in terms of delay here. So you can get really specific with how often you want these banners to switch. It could be every second to very quickly go through. You could leave them on for 60 seconds if you really wanted people to be able to read something that was in that space. So again, that's a control that you have. So that's a lot of the new features here in the storefront. I just want to also talk about the things that can be customized. So you'll see here this has a white background. That can be customized. So this could be any background color that you wanted, so it can fit within your brand. You'll see that there's some gray here, some gray in this button. This button here is gray. My icons down here are gray. That again is another feature that you can customize, so you can have it more in line with your brand and your brand colors. We call that the highlight color, so it's used in multiple spaces, including these little new banners here. And then again, this brand bar up at the top where you see it saying shape up here, this is an optional feature you can include or not include, and can be as tall or as short as you want it to be, but just a way to have some additional branding to this issues interface. So all of these things can be turned on and off. And then the basic here, which is the standard issue grid, where you can see all of the issues that you own, whether you download them or whether you're reading them. You'll see also that instead of a now reading button down here, which is what we had before to get back into the issue you're reading, now you could simply look in your issue grid. The issue you were just reading will say continue reading. If I tap that, you'll see that it's going to load and it's going to zoom into view. This is a relatively big issue, so it's going to take a moment to load here on my mini, but there you see. And now I'm right back in my normal issue. Once I'm in my issue, to get back to my issues interface, I can just tap issues down here like I did before. Or I can tap up here in the corner this issues button that you saw up in the corner to go back to my issues interface. A couple of other things we've added to the store here that I want to mention, and I'll just show you these out in Publish, is what we call inclusive issues. So inclusive issues have been around for a while as a feature, and what inclusive has meant, and I'm just going to pop into the subscriptions interface, what inclusive has traditionally meant is, let's say you have a free app and all of your issues are paid. But as a bonus to people to download the app the first time, you want to say, hey, download this app and we'll give you a free issue. That's what inclusive issue meant is, and still does. So you can say, hey, download this app and we'll include the January issue for free. The one feature we've added, a couple of features we've added, the one we've added to that version of inclusive issues is that now when you have an inclusive issue, you can actually pop up a message to the user that says really whatever you want it to say, because it can be customized, but you can pop up a message that says, thanks for downloading the app, you get the January issue for free, would you like to download it now? And they can choose to hit that download button and start that download moving within their issues interface. Or they can click cancel and go away. Before, what it did is just that issue, because it was included, would just appear in their library, but they really had no way of knowing that that was a gift from you, that it was a bonus and something they got. Now you can actually pop up a message and let them know. But we've also added another inclusive feature, and that's why I'm here in the subscriptions interface out in my magplus publish backend. Now I can also choose to include a particular issue with a subscription. So again, think of it as kind of that bonus. So I've got a monthly subscription, for instance, but I also have a special issue that I did. And maybe I published that special issue 6 months ago. So normally, if I subscribe today, I would never get it because it falls outside of my subscription period. This new inclusive issue for a subscription feature is a way for me to give away even that back issue as a bonus to subscribers. So now I can say, hey, subscribe today to my monthly subscription and we'll give you this special bonus issue for free. And that's just set here under the subscription tab. And that also is a live option. So it's again something you can run some campaigns around. So you can decide to include a bonus issue. You can put up a banner that tells people about it, and then track how many subscriptions you drive that week and whether some of these features help boost those numbers. I want to point out one other small thing here in the issues interface. So I mentioned that here in the store, there's a few places I can sell subscriptions now, right? I can have the banner up here could be linked directly to a subscription purchase. I can put it here in my featured content space, but I can also, just as I could in the old app, I can also have it appear here as the first issue or the first space in my issue grid. This could be my annual subscription and this could be my monthly subscription if I wanted it to. And in order to get them to show up here, you just need to check this box out here in the publish interface. You just need to say display in issues grid. We wanted to point that out because it could be easy to miss, and you might launch your subscription and then not see it in your store and go, oh my God, where did my subscription go? You just need to make sure you check that box. So that's everything that's sort of new with the app itself. Now the other thing I wanted to mention is that I'm just showing you the iOS app here, but our Android app is also completely redone for this 5.0. And I'm just showing you iOS because I'm using Reflector to show it on the screen here. But our Android app is also completely new and has many of these same features, all of these same features in its store as well. So I can do the same kind of featured content, the same sorts of banners, the same great modern interface as with our Android app as well. And you can control those features from within the Publish tab. So now I want to pop out to the plugin and show you one of the one new feature that we included out here. Like I said, most of the emphasis for this release was on the actual reader apps themselves and giving you some new tools within that space. But I wanted to show you the one really great new creative feature that we put into the plugin for this release, and it has to do with pop-ups. So traditionally, the way that you would make a pop-up is that you would draw an item, and then here in your magplus object panel, you would choose the object type pop-up. And that would bring up some features down here that you could associate with that pop-up, whether it was standard or whether it was modal or whether it was initially visible or whether it had a close box. The limitation that you had with that is that the only thing you could ever really pop up were images or blocks. You couldn't pop up an HTML element or a slideshow, for instance. And you couldn't put links on top of a pop-up. So you can do all of that now. What we've introduced is a new panel for the magplus plugin that we call the PopUp Panel. So let me show you how this works. So here's a page out of our design examples. So you can download this sample page out on our support site. We just call this the design examples. It's a whole issue. You can also see this in the reviewer app. The actual file is included out there as well. And here I've got a swipe slideshow. But let's say instead of having this slideshow just directly here on the page, I wanted this to be an actual pop-up. Now what I can do with the pop-up panel, the pop-up panel basically allows me to make any type of content a pop-up. So now instead of just putting this slideshow here on my pinned blocks layer, so my regular B layer here, I'm going to move this up to my B pinned pop-up layer. And I did that just by dragging my little colored square here up to this layer. That's a really quick way to move content between layers. You can see now that I did that and I've got my slideshow selected, my pop-up panel suddenly became live. So watch this pop-up panel here while I drag this back to the regular one. Now it's on a non-pop-up layer. You can see this pop-up panel is not active. I can't do anything on it. So I move that content back to my pop-up. Now, boom, this becomes active. So now, even though this is a slideshow, I can set this to have pop-up qualities to it. I can say, well, I want this to be a standard pop-up and I want it to be initially visible or part of a pop-up group. And then I could just set my regular hotspot as I would before. So let me go here and we'll make the deck here the actual trigger for it. So now I can say add link. The type of link I want here is a pop-up link. And just as before, I'm setting the URL as popup : / and then the name of my pop-up. So here I'm just going to name my pop-up 1. I usually use really simple names like that because it's just faster to type. So I go back to my clickable area here, and you can see I did popup : / 1. So what I've just done here is I've created the area that I'm going to tap to trigger this pop-up, right, to make this show up. And I don't need this to pin, but we'll leave all of that on. I can have all of my same slideshow settings here. I'm just going to leave it as a standard pop-up. Now let me pop out on my reviewer or on my iPad rather, to the magplus reviewer, which is also updated for 5.0. So if we go here to Reflector, you'll see I'm in my reviewer here. And let's pop into my settings and make sure that the two pieces are connected. There we go, Mike's iPad. And we'll just review this out and wait for this to push over, and hopefully we can demonstrate now the way that this new pop-up panel allows me to have any kind of content here on my pop-up layer. As we wait for it to go, there we go. Now you can see it's moving over. This is really when we should have Jeopardy music playing in the background, some kind of an interlude. So you can see I've also used the slideshow feature here to do a little animation. That's what you see coming in with that headline there. And you can see that this slideshow is not visible. That's because it's on my pop-up layer. So if I tap my hotspot, now my pop-up appears. You can see that it's a slideshow that I can swipe right through. I tap where I put that hotspot, it turns back off again. What this also then allows me to do, and let me pop out to another spot here, and let me turn on some additional layers. So on this example, we've got, let me just review this one out. And let's take a look at what this page looks like normally, because it's a little bit of a jumble here in InDesign, but I want you to see how this looks when you're looking at it as a user. So this is just another sample page showing our various types of pop-ups. So click that, I get my boom, my modal pop-up, right? Then I can tap outside and it goes away, or I can look at a standard pop-up here. Now, here's one of the challenges we saw a lot with pop-ups, and this is a perfect example. So let's say this is a fashion magazine, and I pop up and I see this outfit, but now I want to actually be able to click this and go out to the website and buy it. In the old style, you couldn't do that. Now you can add links on top of pop-ups, and I'll show you how. So now if I go back out here, and I go on to my pop-up layer, and we'll just pick this one here. Let's see which one that is. So this is my standard pop-up here. Again, because this object now can be a standard block object, I can just click the Add Link button, and this can be just a regular link. We'll just have it going out to, we'll go cnn.com just because it's fast to type, right? So now I've got my link on top of my pop-up here. And if we go back here, and we review it out, here we go. So now I bring up my standard pop-up. Now when I tap my pop-up, you'll see that I've triggered my in-app browser to come up, and CNN loads. And I was able to do that because, again, now my pop-up can be, get rid of that there. There we go. Now my pop-up can be just a standard block that I can add any kind of a link to. So let's say instead of that being a web link, let's get really weird, and let's say I wanted to do a pop-up, right? So this could now be pop-up : / Let's find one of our other pop-ups here. if I go here, so what I'm showing you here is that now you can, again, I can have a link on top of a pop-up, and links can do all kinds of things within a magplus vertical, right? They could trigger a link out to a website, they can trigger a movie to play, or they can actually trigger another pop-up. So now when I tap my one pop-up, boom, I've triggered my other pop-up to come up on top of it. Now, as you can see, this can start to take you down a bit of a rabbit hole. Pop-ups on top of pop-ups can get really confusing, but the point is it just gives a lot more flexibility to how you use these additional layers, whether that's something simple like just having a link to a website off of your pop-up, or whether you want to do something a little bit more complicated in terms of your design here. That's how you use the pop-up panel. The really important things to remember about this, and I'll pop back to a simpler design here to show you, is if you're trying to use this and you find that the pop-up panel isn't coming up, it's probably because you don't have content selected that's on a pop-up pin blocks layer. So again, you'll see if I move this back to my regular layer and non-pop-up layer, this is going to go gray and I won't be able to use it. So when you're trying to use this, just make sure you put some content somewhere on a pop-up layer, and then you're going to see this come up, and you can assign then your different kind of pop-up things, standard, modal, initially visible, etc. Another piece of the system that we really overhauled for this release, I'm going to jump out of the plugin now, and I want to go to what has long been kind of the black sheep of the magplus system, and this is our production tool. From its very boring name, the production tool, to what had been its UI, its interface, has been a little dry for a long time and not terribly useful. So we gave it a complete overhaul for 5.0, as you can see here. If you were familiar with the old one at all, if you ever saw it, it was a lot uglier than this. So what we did here, there's no real new functionality in this. We added some new features in the 4.3 and 4.4 releases, but in this we didn't really add any new features. We really just took a look at how all of the different options were laid out, and how the tool was interacted with, and tried to make some improvements. So here you can see I've got, this is my actual issue. So the production tool is where I lay out the order of my issue, and I can move things around just by dragging and dropping them to change the order of my issue. I can look in this, what we call our preview view, where I can see my full vertical length. I can look in a simple list view where I can sort, if I want to, by name or by ID. And we also have what we call the wall view, where I can just see this top slide, but it allows me to see more of the issue at once. And of course I can zoom out if I want to see an awful lot of my issue here, or zoom in if I want to get really close. So here you can see I've kind of showing everything at once. So I've got my clipboard up here. When I export pages out of InDesign, this is where they show up, and then I can come down here and I can drag it in. So one of the really useful things that we've done, as you can see, this is a really important space, right? Because this is where I'm laying out my issue. What we've done is made all of the rest of this collapsible so you can get rid of it. So you see this little arrow right up here at the top. I hit that, my clipboard zooms away. So now I've got some more space. Same thing with my menus over here on the side. If you don't care about this vertical data, click the arrow, it goes away. Same thing with the issue settings. Once you've set the metadata that you need to here, you can close that. If you don't want to just see any of these things, click the arrow over here, whole thing goes away, and now I've got a really nice big canvas that I can use to lay out my issue and really zoom in on things and take a good look at stuff. And then if I need to get back to things, I just click this and I get back my same choices that I've always had. The one other feature we did, the one thing we did include in here that I think is really useful, and if you've ever struggled with this in our system before, you'll know, we got rid of what was called a brand settings file. So if you've ever had to make a magplus.mags file, you don't have to do that anymore. Now when you start a new issue, you simply set a brand name here, an issue name here, and that's going to come into the file name, or what we call the GUID, which is really the technical name, but it's really just the file name. It's the file name of the MIB. The issue file that you're going to create is brand name dot issue dot version. And I also wanted to point out that you can, of course, manually edit this version number. So some people have struggled in the past with the way that things version up and having to create additional MIBs to get the versioning to go up. You don't have to do that anymore. You can just go in here and type whatever version number that you want. So again, no more brand settings file. Just type in a brand name, an issue name, version number, boom, that's your file name. And this, of course, is never public. This is just for your own internal reference. So that's the new production tool. The last thing I wanted to show in here is a new third-party service that we added in, and I'm just going to show you the website of it and then describe what it is. This is a feature called EMagazines Insight. So one of the things, as many of you know, that we really like to do at magplus is find really good best-in-class partners to work with. We like to find people who are bringing new capabilities into the app space and then build them into our app infrastructure so that you can take advantage of them without having to do any kind of integration or anything else. You can just check a box and boom, now you get this capability. So we do that with a lot of our analytics partners. EMagazines is one of the new marketing focused partners that we've just added in. I mentioned at the beginning of this webinar that one of the things that was really important to us for this release, one of the things we were trying to solve was how can we drive whatever your success metric is? And we've looked at ways that hopefully we can help you drive more subscription sales or issue downloads or issue opens using some of that featured content and banner space. But what about just app downloads, just getting more people to get your app in the first place? It's a huge challenge that we all recognize as a challenge we all struggle with. Well, one of the things, of course, that almost any brand does, so you launch an app and you probably do some marketing campaigns around it. Maybe you put some banners out on your website, or you send out an email to your users or to your subscribers saying, hey, we have a new app, click here to download it. And when the user clicks there, they're going out to the iTunes store so that they can then go install the app. So here's where eMagazines comes in. eMagazines Insight basically allows you to track when people click those links. So again, I put a banner up on my website that says, hey, click here to install the new app. That link goes out to iTunes. When you're using eMagazines, you can track not only how many people click that link in any given campaign, but what they do once they actually install the app. So if I click that banner, I go out to iTunes, I go, I do want this app, I click the install button. eMagazines knows that, right? They know I've installed it. And within a certain window of time, if I make a purchase or I download an issue, that can also be tracked. So that in your eMagazines dashboard, you can see that any given campaign ultimately produced this much revenue or this many installs. And what that really allows you to do is start to hone in on what are the messages, what are the banners, what are the campaigns and the creative that really drives the most installs and the best revenue per install. It's really a way to optimize those marketing efforts that everybody's been trying to do and often really struggling with figuring out, well, what is really actually driving installs or driving purchases. Now you can track some of that. They also have some additional features like you can run promotions to say, hey, subscribe and get a $5 Starbucks gift card, and eMagazines will take care of the fulfillment of that. And some other things as well, affiliate networks, etc. So eMagazines, this works just like all of our other third parties. You can go out to eMagazines, you can chat with them, let them kind of demo the tool for you or learn a little bit more. And if you decide it is something that you want to do, you can sign up with eMagazines. We have a special discounted rate only for magplus folks, so they can describe that for you and what the contracts and all of that looks like. And then within the magplus world, really all you have to do is within your apps tab out here, you could simply put in your eMagazines app ID, same as you do with any of our other services like AppBoy or our analytics services. As part of the sign-up process, here you'll get a special little key from them, a special little numeric key. Pop that into eMagazines, hit save, boom, now your app is eMagazines enabled. And again, live settings. So you can go ahead and launch your 5.0 app. A couple weeks into it, once you've figured out all your store stuff, go talk to the eMagazines folks, sign up with them, get your key, and then boom, you can start incorporating it and take advantage of that feature again as you can with our other third parties. So I hope that this has been a helpful webinar. This has been pre-recorded, so you can go back and watch it again later, and we've been live in the chat while we're doing this, so hopefully we've been having a good conversation while you've been watching me present this. Again, I want to point out that All of this stuff is documented out on our site, so you head out to magplus.com and you'll see specific blog posts about each one of these features that I've gone through. Out on the support site, you'll find all updated information out here about customizing your storefront, how to use the banner space, etc. Thanks so much for tuning in today. We look forward to talking to you again with some great new features.